Officially, Amber Heard is appealing the Johnny Depp verdict. On June 1st, a jury delivered their decision in the libel case involving Amber Heard and Johnny Depp after 2 days of deliberation. In her 2018 Washington Post op-ed, Heard disparaged Depp 3 times, while her representative Adam Waldman did the same in his 2020 Daily Mail post. The decision came to an end after 6 weeks of arduous testimony in the Fairfax County Courthouse in Virginia. This was the most recent development in a contentious legal spat that started in 2016. Heard described herself in her op-ed as a victim of sexual assault whose career suffered after she accused a well-known Hollywood figure of being her abuser. She didn't specifically address Depp, but Depp contended that most readers would have filled in the blank given how openly the actor's divorce played out and how crucial Heard's claims of domestic violence were to the proceedings. Even though he had already seen some negative news at that point, he nonetheless filed a defamation lawsuit against Heard. She sued again after failing in her attempt to have the case dismissed. She also filed an appeal on November 23, nearly 6 months after being unsuccessful in court, claiming that Depp's claim never should have gone to trial in the first place, and that the decision undoubtedly will have a chilling effect on other women who wish to speak about abuse involving powerful men. Heard and Depp met while filming The Rum Diary, and they started dating in 2012, after he ended his 14-year relationship with Vanessa Paradis and she ended hers with Tassia Van Ree. The stars wed at the beginning of 2015. And despite numerous claims to the contrary made by anonymous tabloid sources, Heard filed for divorce 15 months later. In a brief statement released to the media, Depp reacted to the news, given the briefness of this marriage and the most recent and tragic death of his mother. Johnny will not respond to any of the salacious false stories, gossip, misinformation, and lies about his personal life. Hopefully the short marriage dissolution will be handled quickly. It was May of 2016. By this time, the marriage had already endured a significant international dog smuggling scandal, and the gossip publications immediately began investigating reasons for the divorce. When they first started dating, Heard would have been about 25 and Affolk would have been about 48. They floated alleged familial hostility, benefolk, and different life phases as potential reasons for the breakup, but the real one emerged in court documents. There was one severe incident in December 2015 when I truly feared for my life, Heard wrote in her documents. She showed up to court with bruises on her face. People also posted pictures of their injuries online. Heard demanded a restraining order against Depp after alleging that he had thrown an iPhone at her head during an argument days earlier, and that she had already filed a police report. And thus a very acrimonious, very public divorce started. Heard claimed that throughout their relationship, Depp frequently erupted in violent outbursts and physical abuse, especially when drugs were involved. In her court documents, she claimed that the iPhone incident was a recurrence of earlier abuse from Depp, including excessive emotional, verbal, and physical abuse in angry, hostile, humiliating, and threatening assaults. Heard claimed that she had evidence in the form of pictures and video to back up her claims. Later, video from Heard's cell phone that was published by TMZ showed the Pirates of the Caribbean actor yelling at his wife. Additionally, texts were released in which Stephen Deuters, Depp's aide, apologized on the actor's behalf for kicking Heard the previous evening. She replied, "He's done this many times before. I constantly stay in Tokyo, the island, London, remember that." And so on. Always have faith that he will improve. I then find myself in the same situation every 3 or so months. Heard additionally rejected Depp's offer of spousal support, stating that, in contrast to what his lawyers had implied to the media, the case wasn't about money for her. Additionally, while some tabloid reports TMZ's, for instance, her friend, photographer and writer Io Tillett-Wright, came forward with a vehement denial that Heard had fabricated her facial injuries. He penned Bull's tea in a protracted Twitter chat. "Enough is enough. I noticed the bumps, numerous times the huge lip, too." Also the severed head. Tillett-Wright said that he had personally watched and experienced Depp's wrath and questioned, how much proof does a lady need to present? She has witnesses, photos, texts, and a restraining order. And in relation to the images, oh boy. Depp made a cold statement about the situation and then stayed silent about it, leaving his attorneys to discuss it in court. The actor remained silent, but there was still an effort to discredit Heard in tabloids. For instance, TMZ released audio from a 2009 court proceeding that took place after Heard was detained for allegedly abusing Van Ree, her ex-partner. At the Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, Heard allegedly grabbed Ree's arm and struck her, an incident Van Ree claimed had been misinterpreted and over-sensationalized by 2 individuals in a power position. In response to the recently revealed arrest, Van Ree claimed that Heard had been wrongfully accused, adding that it was disappointing that Amber's credibility and account were once more being questioned. "I have the highest regard for Amber since she is a clever, honorable, and stunning woman." Depp vehemently refuted Heard's claims in following court proceedings, but by the middle of August 2016, the two had settled, "Our relationship was extremely passionate and tumultuous at times, but it was always based on love." In a united statement, they said, "Neither party has leveled unfounded charges in an effort to gain advantage. Neither physical nor emotional harm was ever intended." Amber hopes for Johnny's future success. Heard was supposed to split the money Depp finally paid her between the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles and the ACLU's division that fights violence against women. She has not finished making those payments. According to later testimony in the case, the ACLU cited financial difficulties. Her withdrawal of the restraining order and the abuse case, with the restriction that she could never refile it, were also requirements of the settlement. Sadly, it did not put an end to the bigger disagreement. Depp filed a lawsuit against News Group Newspapers, Limited in 2018 after The Sun, one of its publications, referred to him as a wife-beater. According to the BBC, UK, law requires the person accused of defamation to provide evidence in support of their claims, which would have made Depp's case simpler to win. The trial once more brought attention to the 14 abuse incidents, according to Heard, that took place between 2013 and 2016. Depp refuted all of the claims and redirected the criticism toward his ex-wife, claiming that she or perhaps one of her friends had urinated in his bed. She would frequently get into violent rages, according to him, and once she sliced off the tip of his finger when she flung a whiskey bottle at him. She has a borderline personality disorder diagnosis, is sociopathic, narcissistic, and entirely emotionally dishonest, according to him. He used ex-girlfriend Winona Ryder and ex-partner parodies as character witnesses. He did, however, ultimately lose the case in July 2020. In his decision, the judge agreed that Depp appeared to have put Heard in fear for her life on a number of occasions. This choice also brought to light some vile texts the actor had sent to other business people. He once stated that Heard was begging for ultimate global humiliation to her former agency. "She will understand it. For this gold-digging, low-level, dime-a-dozen, mushy, meaningless dangling, overused flappy fish market, I have no mercy, no fear, not a shred of feeling, or what I once thought was love. I'm so ecstatic that she wants to engage in combat. She will strike the wall forcefully, and I am so excited to be rid of this useless cum-guzzler from my life." He wrote, "Let's drown her before we burn her." To another actor, "In order to make sure she is dead, I shall fuck her burned body later. I want her replaced on the WB film," he demanded of his sister and producer. Depp later acknowledged, alluding to Aquaman, he was denied the right to appeal the judge's ruling. He had, however, previously filed a defamation lawsuit in the United States against Heard over her 2018 op-ed in the Washington Post. Even though Depp's name doesn't appear once in the entire op-ed, it is clear from reading it who Heard is referring to. "I spoke out about sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath," the article's title reads. That has to change. The essay discusses the limitations of the Me Too movement as well as the career repercussions she claims resulted from being a public figure representing domestic abuse. She remarked, "Consider a strong guy as a ship, like the Titanic. That ship is a massive undertaking. There are numerous people scrambling to patch holes on board when it hits an iceberg, not because they support the ship or even care about it, but rather because their own futures depend on it." Her main focus was on political solutions, such as strengthening Title IX safeguards on campuses and reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, rather than rolling them back. However, Depp filed a $50 million defamation lawsuit against the author of the article 3 months later in the early months of 2019. He claimed that her claims were demonstrably false and that they had also brought new damage to Mr. Depp's reputation and career. The UK was suggested by members of the film industry who spoke with The Hollywood Reporter. Despite the fact that Depp's career has stagnated since 2016, it's possible that the verdict was merely the last straw for him. They claim that alleged drug addiction and poorly received movies may have also contributed to the decline in his prospects. In any case, Heard submitted a motion to dismiss Depp's complaint in April 2019 while simultaneously disclosing shockingly new information regarding the alleged abuse. Heard claimed that Depp would beat her, choke her, sometimes rip chunks of her scalp from her head while pulling her hair, and was frequently under the influence of drugs and alcohol. "We called that version of Johnny the monster," she said in the filing. Regarding one alleged assault, she wrote, "I remember being afraid that Johnny might not know when to stop and that he might kill me." Heard countersued for $100 million in August 2020 after the case wasn't dismissed, claiming that Depp's allegations that she made the whole thing up for publicity, saying she had been painting on her bruises, were meant to damage her reputation. The Washington Post is printed in Springfield, Virginia, which is also the location of its internet servers, even though it isn't specifically mentioned in the case. As a result, the trial began on April 11th at the Fairfax County Courthouse, where Judge Penny Ascaret has already prohibited supporters from setting up camp. Heard's attorneys may make use of a Virginia provision that shields persons from legal action when they interact with third parties about matters of public concern that would be protected under the First Amendment, according to The Guardian. Ellen Barkin, an ex-girlfriend of Depp's who has already testified that he allegedly hurled a wine bottle at her, is among the witnesses expected on Heard's side. Paul Bettany, the actor Depp texted about burning Heard and more, is apparently the person Depp wishes to speak with. Heard informed her Instagram followers on April 9, right before the trial started, that she would be offline for the next few weeks in order to concentrate on the case. Heard defended her piece in her article, saying, "I never identified. Instead I wrote about the cost women face when speaking up against powerful males. I'm still paying for it," she wrote. She continued, "I've always had a thing for Johnny," and declared, "It pains me greatly to have to relive the specifics of our prior relationship in front of the world." According to Depp's attorneys, Heard falsely presented herself as the face of the Me Too movement, the virtuous representative of innocent women across the country and the world who have truly suffered abuse, and her false allegations had a significant impact on Mr. Depp's family and his ability to work in the profession he loved, in their opening statements. As a revenge-obsessed ex-husband hell-bent on revenge, Heard's attorneys claimed that Depp had once sexually assaulted her with a liquor bottle, adding that all Mr. Depp has wanted to do is humiliate Amber, to haunt her, to wreck her career. Christy Dombrowski, Depp's older sister, and Dr. Laurel Anderson, a marriage counselor who assisted Heard and Depp in 2015, testified in front of the jury during the first week of the trial. Anderson said that she thought the pair engaged in what I regarded as mutual abuse based on her work with them in a deposition that was recorded in February. According to the doctor, Heard would provoke fights to keep him with her, and those bouts might turn violent. She would strike him to keep him there if he tried to leave to de-escalate the argument because she would rather be fighting than have him go, according to Anderson. She further stated that she once witnessed several minor bruises on Heard's face. Georgina Duders, who appeared in person as a witness for Depp, was removed by the judge on April 14, dealing a blow to the actor's defense team. She claimed that Heard had offered her narcotics at her 2015 nuptials to Depp and that throughout the course of their almost 20-year friendship, she had repeatedly seen Depp consume booze and use cocaine. However, once Duders admitted she had viewed online video clips of the testimony already presented at trial, her testimony was removed from the record. The court heard testimony from Dr. David Kipper, Depp's physician. Regarding Depp's drug and alcohol abuse, Kipper remembers assisting the actor with his detox after he supposedly developed an opiate dependency following a dental operation, and was requested to give a testimony regarding an incident in March 2015 that left Depp's finger seriously hurt. Heard's team contends that the damage was self-inflicted, but Depp is claiming that Heard threw a vodka bottle at him and caused the injuries. Depp informed the staff at the time that he had cut himself with a knife, and to Kipper's knowledge, never accused Heard of causing the injury. The doctor acknowledged seeing broken glass in the kitchen at the time, but he was unable to recall whether the glass was from a vodka bottle or not, or whether blood was on it. Although not specifically, he claimed that there was blood around the home and on the glass. Debbie Lloyd, Depp's former personal nurse, claimed during a video deposition that she never fretted about Depp's security while with Heard. Sean Bett, Johnny Depp's security officer, gave a courtroom testimony on April 18. He described hearing the pair quarrel, but he insisted that, aside from one incident in which Heard is claimed to have thrown a plastic cup or water bottle at Depp, he never saw any physical abuse. Photos of Depp from December 2015 that Bett gave to the court appear to show the actor with facial injuries. On April 19, Depp took the witness stand and informed the court that he had initially filed the lawsuit because he felt a responsibility to clear my name. Depp denied hitting Heard or any other woman at any time. The actor also spoke about his upbringing, which he described as brutal, calling his father's beatings with a white leather belt a torrent of venom. Depp said that his mother hit him as well. However, he claimed that she mainly used verbal and psychological violence. After some time, Depp's father finally left, leaving his mother in a severe melancholy with thoughts of suicide and his son furious, until a discussion he had with his father years later. Depp claimed to have found that I was mistaken about my original impressions of his expulsion from the family, extremely wrong during that conversation. Depp also discussed the first year and a half of his relationship with Heard, calling her too good to be true during that time. She was observant, affectionate, intelligent, kind, humorous, and understanding, and we had a lot of interests, he continued. However, he claimed that even in the beginning of their relationship, there were minor signs that something was wrong. Depp said that Heard reprimanded him after he arrived home one day and took off his boots because it was her responsibility. Naturally, the fact that she appeared startled or irritated because I had violated her normal rules made him hesitate, he admitted. Within another year, she had nearly completely changed. Depp asserted that if Heard didn't want to go to bed at the same time as Sheridan, Heard would become unreasonable, irritated. Little things like that, he said, would eventually grow into much bigger issues. Depp also discussed his journey into acting and the psychological and emotional toll celebrity had on him. He acknowledged the extreme, violent texts he had sent about Heard, such as the one in which he expressed the wish that her rotting corpse was decomposing in the fucking trunk of a Honda Civic, but added that pain has to be dealt with humor, something dark, very dark humor, and that he was ashamed of some of the references made. The actor spoke extensively about his drug use, insisting that he never used drugs to party but rather to occasionally numb myself of the ghosts, the wraiths, that I still had with me. He described them as self-medication times where you want to escape from your own brain, your own thoughts, but asserted that Heard's description of his behavior as substance abuse was simply blatantly incorrect and an easy target for her to hit, in particular on the production of a movie. He claimed that there have been no occasions where I was out of control. Depp acknowledged having a roxicodone addiction, which he claimed had arisen from an injury he sustained while filming the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean movie, but claimed to have undergone a detoxification process while dating Heard. Depp continued his testimony on Wednesday morning by comparing Heard to his controlling mother. He described how Heard would verbally demolish him using his weaknesses as ammunition. He also told the jury that he stayed with Heard after she turned abusive because of fear that she would commit suicide, relating this worry to his mother's earlier attempt at suicide. He noted that Ms. Heard had mentioned suicide on a few times. I believe that maybe I could assist her. The actor portrayed how he severed his finger in the incident, accusing Heard of losing his cool over the prospect of a pre- and post-nup. Heard allegedly threw 2 vodka bottles during a heated argument, one of which severed Depp's middle finger's tip. He admitted, "I was looking right at the bones sticking out. Blood just started pouring out. That's probably the closest I've ever come to experiencing a nervous breakdown, though I have no idea how it feels. I realized in my mind and heart that this is not life since nothing made sense. Writing on the wall, with my blood, small reminders from our past, little lies that she told me and little lies that I had caught her in." Depp claimed he did next. Depp stated that he lied to the doctor who treated him, telling him that he smashed his hand in a big accordion door in an effort to protect Heard. Heard, who has not yet taken the stand, claims that Depp hurt himself over the course of a multi-day binge and used the bloody stump to write messages intended for her. On April 20th, during Depp's testimony, his attorneys presented unclear excerpts from arguments one of them had taped. The court looked at pictures of bruises and scratches he claims to have received from confrontations with Heard, including one incident where Depp said he tried to stop Heard from pushing into the bathroom but was met with a door being kicked into his head. He claimed that he later discovered a tissue sprayed with red nail polish, which seemed to be fake blood. He denied injuring her nose during a different altercation. The most ridiculous accusation, though, relates to a final argument he claims the pair had following Heard's birthday celebration in 2016. Depp said that Heard continued to chastise him after he attempted to go to bed since he arrived late following a lengthy meeting with his accountants. He claims that when he told her that he was leaving, she began to strike him. The following morning, after she had left the apartment to attend Coachella, he said that he had attempted to return to get some of his belongings. He allegedly changed his mind after viewing a picture of their bed that showed human fecal waste accumulated on his side. Depp testified in court that Heard tried to blame it on the dogs when he told her he wanted a divorce. Depp claimed that he immediately felt the effects of abuse claims he called unfounded after their breakup became public knowledge. Additionally, he addressed the opinion piece itself, saying that while he agreed with the second half's arguments, it was obviously about me, definitely about our relationship, and obviously about me 2 years ago. Because of this, he said, no matter how this trial turns out, the moment the accusations were made against me, the moment more and more of these things spread and became newsworthy, that's when I lost. The cross-examination gained momentum on April 21st as J. Benjamin Rottenborn, Heard's counsel, began a demanding and occasionally grueling 6 hours of inquiry. The text Depp sent to his friend Paul Bettany in 2013 about drowning and burning served as the inspiration for Rottenborn. Heard. He made advantage of these and other remarks to highlight the contrast between the apologetic partner who emerged after Depp sobered up and the wrathful person who Depp reportedly became while under the influence of narcotics and alcohol. Depp's substance abuse and dependence were heavily emphasized during the cross-examination, which also called attention to apparent discrepancies between his testimony in this trial and his testimony in the UK. Depp repeatedly disputed Rottenborn's assertion that Depp frequently entered a state of unconsciousness during his relationship with Heard, and, as a result, may not necessarily be aware of what he did or did not do. However, the texts Rottenborn presented to the jury did indicate a pattern, which Depp repeatedly refuted. After a particularly bumpy trip from Boston to Los Angeles in May 2014, Depp is alleged to have texted Bettany, "I'm going to properly stop the booze thing, dear, drank all night before I picked Amber up." Depp then listed the things he had reportedly consumed, allegedly on an empty stomach, including half a bottle of whiskey, 1,000 Red Bull and vodkas, tablets, and 2 bottles of Champers on plane. Depp said to Bettany, "I'm done," adding that he was angry, aggro, and in a fucking blackout. "I'll admit that I'm too screwed up to lash out at the person I love, and for no good reason at all." Although in his UK trial, Depp admitted that he probably wouldn't have said such things to Bettany if they weren't true, he insisted that he hadn't consumed all of that, instead taking 2 roxicodone and a glass of champagne. And the next day, Depp wrote to Heard in an email that Rottenborn read aloud in court. Once again, I find myself in a place of guilt and regret. I apologize, of course. I have no idea what caused it or why, but I won't do it again. I must improve if I am to improve for both you and myself. My disease caught hold of me in some unseen way. I know you can't live like that again, and neither can I. In a number of instances, Depp appeared to attribute the couple's differences to intoxication or drug use while speaking with others, according to Rottenborn. During a confrontation with Heard in 2013, he acknowledged striking a light fixture. According to Rottenborn, he then contacted Bettany about an upcoming trip and said, "You may have to drink for me." Of course, on a recent trip, I beat Amber and showed her ugly colors. I'm a crazy person, and alcohol makes me less sane. Rottenborn also questioned Depp's usage of the term monster, which he had previously said Heard gave him when she first started to believe him, whether it is appropriate or not, to be intoxicated. Heard's lawyer cited a 2012 text message in which Heard thanked Elton John for aiding in his sobriety, and wrote, "I would have been swallowed up by the monster were it not for you. That is a simple reality." He read another in which Depp informed Kipper that he had imprisoned his beast child in a cage deep within, and another in which he claimed that all he had to do was send the monster away and lock him up in order for him and Heard to be happier than before. Depp sounded irate and vengeful in subsequent texts and emails. For instance, in a 2013 talk with John, he reportedly alluded to Paradis, his previous partner, as the French extortionist, ex-cunt who was planning to poison their children in opposition to Heard. "Is the slippery whore to whom I temporarily donated my jizz still there?" Depp reportedly texted his friend Isaac Baruch in September 2016 with this question. Inconsistencies in Depp's account of his sobriety in the 18 months prior to his arrival in Australia in February 2015 were highlighted by Rottenborn by surfacing messages to his assistants that appeared to be requests for cocaine and ecstasy. The latter, according to Depp, was for Heard. He also addressed the finger incident, asking why Depp's middle finger was so badly cut while his ring and pointer fingers were unharmed. He pointed out that Depp didn't say that he painted his severed finger after it stopped bleeding. Depp gave him permission to keep writing messages all over the house. However, the actor disagreed with Rottenborn's reading of hospital records, conversations, and texts to Kipper, which suggested that Depp had apparently cut off his own finger during the altercation. The day closed with a 5-minute recording of Depp threatening to cut himself and Heard pleading with him not to. The court had previously seen a video of Depp destroying the kitchen in one of his homes while Heard consoled him. Monday morning, shortly after Heard's attorney had started playing more audio clips of the former couple's fights in the courtroom, Depp's cross-examination came to a conclusion. Heard instructs him to put his cigarettes out on someone else in one, to which he responds, "Shoot up, fat ass." Depp described the footage a grossly overblown moment of Ms. Heard and denied lighting his cigarette on her. Heard states in another film, "I cry in my bedroom after I dumped you a week previous after you beat the snot out of me," to which Depp responds, "I made a huge mistake. I won't repeat the error." The pieces written by Heard prior to the 2018 opus ed that Depp's complaint says destroyed his reputation and career were also made available by Heard's lawyers. The articles were cited as proof that his public fall from grace started long before the opus ed was printed. After the cross-examination, Depp was questioned by his own legal representative, Jessica Mayers, where he admitted that the passage describing burning Heard was straight from Monty Python, referring to a scenario in which a village tries to drown and burn a lady they believe to be a witch. "It was a good illustration of Depp's abstract and irreverent comedy," he said. More arguments between Depp and Heard were shown in the clips, including one in which he asked Heard if she wanted to strike him in the ear again. Heard and Depp can be heard discussing the charges over the phone in another video shown by Depp's attorney, which was made after Heard publicly accused Depp of domestic abuse. Heard writes, "The last time things between us were very insane. I honestly believed I was going to lose my life, and I truly believed you would do it by accident." Depp responds, citing 2 alleged violent encounters, "I lost a fucking finger, man. My nose was hit with a can of mineral spirits." Here then tells him to tell everyone that the battle was fair and to ask the jury and judge what they think. "Johnny, tell the world. See if people believe you or take your side when you say, I, Johnny Depp, I'm a victim too of domestic abuse, and it was a fair battle." I said, "Yes, I am." He remembered when Depp's attorney questioned him about how he responded to her claim that he was a victim of domestic abuse. Heard is being painted by Depp's legal team as being vengeful, overly theatrical, and suffering from major mental health issues. Dr. Shannon Curry, a professional psychologist who had assessed Heard over the course of 2 6-hour meetings in December 2021, was summoned to the witness by the defense on April 26. In front of the jury, Curry made the diagnosis of histrionic personality disorder, a mental condition characterized by attention-seeking conduct, excessive emotional display, and an exaggerated but evasive speaking style. She claimed that in addition to HPD, Heard displayed signs of borderline personality disorder, which is characterized by feelings of irrational fear of rejection, uncontrollable emotional outbursts, and self-harm. The legal team for Depp has charged Heard with. Curry claimed that individuals with personality disorders have a tendency to make threats using the legal system, threaten to file for a restraining order, allege abuse, and can be assaultive as partners. Curry claims that Heard externalizes responsibility, has a propensity for self-righteousness, and exhibits explosive rage and clinginess. According to the psychologist, such potent mix may have led Heard to act violently out of fear of being abandoned. One of their most frequent strategies is to physically strike someone before suffering harm themselves. This is typically referred to as administrative violence. When diagnosing Heard with borderline personality disorder, Curry remarked, "Basically, this is indicating that they'll make threats utilizing the judicial system. Therefore, they might claim that they will file a restraining order or that their partner has abused them, among other things, in an effort to prevent their spouse from leaving right away." Curry added that she thought Heard was fabricating her PTSD. Elaine Bredehoft, Heard's attorney, focused on a point Curry conceded she had omitted from her report during cross-examination. Curry had a 3 to 4 hour meal at Depp's house with cocktails as part of what she called an interview for her potential retainer by the actor's crew. Bredehoft also questioned Curry's assessment's timeframe in an effort to undermine her credibility. Curry and Heard did not meet until December 2021. However, Depp's counsel claimed in court documents dated February 2021 that Curry and Heard had a meeting. Who would testify that Heard reportedly made false accusations of abuse and displayed symptoms of borderline personality disorder. Bredehoft pointed out that the witness is not board certified. Curry maintained that, despite the finding of combined borderline and histrionic personality disorder resurfacing in her report, it was not her opinion at the time. Bredehoft claims that Heard told her doctors about Depp's abuse, and that the doctors believed what Heard had to say. The defense team for Depp presented a number of pre-recorded witness depositions on Wednesday to bolster their case. The first 3 centered on the evening of May 21, 2016, when Depp and Heard got into a fight in their Los Angeles apartment and contacted the police. The evening's bodycam and CCTV footage was played. Additionally, 3 LAPD officers who responded to the incident and stated that they were unable to closely inspect Heard but did not notice any marks on her face. She allegedly refused medical treatment, was uncooperative, did not request to file a report, and they believed the matter was resolved when they departed. Former doorman from Depp and Heard's Los Angeles apartment building claimed in an odd video deposition that it appeared to be shot from a moving car, that he didn't recall seeing any marks or bruises on Heard's face while she lived there. Heard's accusations, according to both actors' former agents Christian Carino, hurt Depp's reputation and career. Terrence Doherty, the ACLU's chief operating officer, testified in court on April 28 about the contribution Heard was expected to make from her settlement to the group. Of the $3.5 million, $1.3 million has already been paid in her favor. Doherty said that he was not informed of any change in Heard's desire to pay the balance ultimately, despite the ACLU's assertion that she has encountered financial difficulties. Doherty also commented on the opinion piece, which he said Heard's lawyers changed to comply with the non-disclosure agreement she signed as part of the divorce settlement. She was asked to write the piece by the ACLU because it is one of its ambassadors, and it was then submitted to the Washington Post. According to Doherty, the ACLU approved of Heard's decision to include information about her marriage to Depp since they believed it made for a strong draft. But in the end, those remarks were removed by her legal team. My impression is that the final opus language eds differed significantly from the original opus ed. According to Doherty, it did not make specific reference to Ms. Heard and Johnny Depp's relationship. Ed White, Depp's accountant and business manager, also testified in court, claiming that Heard had raised her settlement demands from $4 million to almost $14 million. By February 2018, he claimed to have paid out the $6.8 million they had agreed upon, adding that instead of donating to the charities she chose, Heard insisted he pay the money straight to her. Malcolm Connolly, Depp's bodyguard, claimed in testimony from the UK that although Heard was first beautiful and charming, with time she became into a more feisty and demanding person. Connolly, who claimed he never witnessed anything physical and mainly heard Amber screaming, later claimed that they were arguing frequently. He did mention that Depp occasionally had bruises and scratches on his face. On April 28, Heard allegedly fired her crisis PR staff as well. According to sources, she was upset by recent news coverage of the incident. On May 2, Depp's defense team put its final few witnesses, including his former manager and bodyguard, to the witness stand. Travis McGivern, Heard's bodyguard, claimed on a live video feed that he had witnessed Heard strike Depp in the face, spit on him, and toss a can of Red Bull his way. But the majority of the day's hearing was devoted to the question of whether and when Heard's abuse claims canceled Depp. Jack Wyam, the actor's talent agent, blamed Heard's op-ed for the actor's termination from the Pirates of the Caribbean series, telling the court that it was impossible to get him a studio film after the article was published. Richard Marks, a lawyer in Hollywood, concurred that the piece. Intellectual property expert Douglas Bania stated Depp was not depicted in a bad connotation previous to the 2016 charges of abuse, which created a catastrophic situation. Bania asserted that the public opinion of Mr. Depp has been tarnished, and that they like him less, a statement at odds with the steadfast backing Depp has received from admirers in and out of court. The content of Heard's op-ed is what is being debated in this case, not the accusations she made during the divorce. To that end, defense lawyer Adam Nadelhaft argued that her statements were merely a drop in a sea of negative press because Depp was suing The Sun at the time Heard's piece was published, and because Bania had previously acknowledged that his research had not taken into consideration that concurrent coverage. After the op-ed was published, his search data on Depp revealed 2 surges around the actor's name in January and July 2020, dates that appear to have much more to do with the UK trial than with the Post story. Nadelhaft cited articles from 2014 that detailed Depp's alleged inebriation in work-related situations, his enormous salary, a string of box office flops, among them the 5th Pirates movie, Dead Men Tell No Tales, and the 2018 incident in which he allegedly became inebriated and assaulted a crew member on set. Nevertheless, according to Depp's legal counsel, the abuse claims pale in comparison to the rumors of his antics, or background noise, as Marks put it. The court also watched prepared testimony from Erin Filati, a former personal nurse for Heard who specialized in addiction. On May 2nd, the couple was in discord, according to the witness, and Heard's worry peaked around the time she first met Depp in Australia in 2015. Filati remembered witnessing Heard's lip bleed after a fight with Depp around the end of that year. She also discussed the pictures Heard had sent her late one night through text. Filati admitted to the jury, "I'm not an expert. Her face is colored in various places. Heard's cheekbone and eye appear reddened and bruised in the photos." This week, after Depp's legal team had finished arguing their case, Heard's group made an effort to have the case completely dismissed. The Hollywood Reporter claims that the motion to dismiss was routine business, and the result was anticipated. On Tuesday, May 3rd, Judge Ascaret allegedly refused the request, and Heard's counsel started articulating her argument. Heard's first witness in the case was Dawn Hughes, a specialist in intimate partner violence. She said before the court that, since September of 2019, she had spent about 29 hours with Heard conducting a forensic evaluation of her expressly for the case. Heard apparently confided in Hughes about her connection with Depp despite not being one of his patients. In her testimony, Hughes claimed that Heard had informed her of numerous instances of sexual violence. As of deadline, Hughes stated that Mr. Depp was drunk or high at the time of the assaults. She said, "He tried to have sex with her after throwing her on the bed and ripping off her nightgown." She further stated that Heard had informed her that Depp forced her to give him oral sex when he was upset. Hughes also spoke about a particularly violent incident that Heard's lawyers had previously brought up, in which Depp is said to have shattered a bottle on Heard while the two were filming the 5th Pirates of the Caribbean movie in Australia. She further stated, shoved Heard, pushed her, slapped her on the front and back of his hand, choked her, and all of these things. He shoved her into the wall, kicked her in the back when she was on the ground. She described Depp as being in charge. Heard had experienced intimate partner violence, and Hughes's major conclusions were that she demonstrated very clear psychological and traumatic repercussions. The following day, Depp's attorneys pressed Hughes on her assertion that Heard's reporting is consistent with what we know about intimate partner abuse during cross-examination. They emphasized that Hughes had read transcripts, watched Depp's depositions, perused his medical records, and examined his text messages, but that she had not spoken with Depp. Hughes backed up Heard's PTSD diagnosis, but claimed she could not render judgment on whether Depp engaged in intimate partner violence, insinuating that she had a prejudicial viewpoint. Depp's attorneys asserted that she had never previously testified in court on behalf of a male victim of domestic abuse. Hughes disproved that notion by pointing out that she frequently works with male victims. She said that Heard had acknowledged punching Depp a number of times in a number of incidents, which may have been partly a reaction to her conduct. On May 4th, Amber Heard's first day of testimony began. She described how, in her opinion, cycles of abuse emerged in their relationship. The first part of the story bore many similarities with Depp's flirting on the set of The Rum Diary, where they connected over their love of wine, music, and literature, a subsequent reunion on the press tour, and a honeymoon period, which Heard described as feeling like utter paradise. He showered her with presents, praise, and attention, as well as her friends and family. She claimed that despite this, a pattern emerged. They would spend days at a time in one of their homes, and then Depp would vanish for some time. during which she was unable to contact him. She claimed that she eventually started to connect his absences with his drinking. Heard testified that Depp's conduct would alter during those occasions. She claimed that he turned judgmental and envious, quick to criticize her and level subliminal charges. She stated that she tried not to bring up the subject of auditions since she thought it would disrupt the atmosphere. He would talk about my whoring myself out, but in the context of other actresses playing these roles were worthless prostitutes, they were fame-hungry, expletive, the author recalled. Heard mentioned one instance in which she attended an event wearing a low-cut dress as evidence that he regularly criticized her attire. She recalled him saying, "I guess the whole world watched that. Kid, that's how they'll remember you." In response when she brought it up to him, "They will only perceive you in light of what you are putting out there in the world, which is what you desired." She claimed that she was humiliated and figured he was correct. Heard claimed that the criticism and the charges culminated in violent altercations where Depp would act destructively. She recalled that as he was screaming at her, he would hurl a glass, knock over a table, or hit the wall, then hit the wall pretty near to my head, she said, and he'd go back to this amazing, extremely nice, sensitive, kind, generous, intriguing, hilarious man that I adored. Then he'd disappear, get sober, tell me he was done drinking. I would feel so loved by him. I wouldn't even recognize that terrifying thing because I would feel so removed from it. Heard spoke in court about the first incident in which Depp is accused of hitting her. She claimed that the two had a regular discussion, there was no fighting, no quarrel, as they sat on the couch. She claimed that Depp was using cocaine and drinking, and Heard questioned him about the Wino Forever tattoo on his arm. "To me, they appeared to be black marks. I had no idea what it stated," she admitted. "It says Wino," he says. "Since it didn't seem to say that at all, I assumed he was making fun of himself and laughed. He hit me across the face," she continued. She chuckled once more, assuming it was a joke, which apparently irked him. She recalled him saying, "You think it's so funny, bitch," to her. "You believe that you are humorous, bitch." She claims he continued to smack her until she fell off the couch and into the carpet, at which point he allegedly went to his knees and apologized bitterly. She claimed that after that, everything got better for a while before Depp started drinking once more. Allegedly, he would accuse her of cheating on him, setting off heated arguments. She was walking on eggshells, knowing you're doing something wrong but not knowing what it was, according to Heard, when she was around him. He would thereafter become sober, and things would improve until March 2013. Heard claimed that Depp used alcohol and cocaine frequently. She remembered a fight where Depp allegedly backhanded her in the face, splitting her lip and leaving blood splatters on the wall. She remembered another instance where she threw someone, and he allegedly punched her in the face while pinning her to the ground. She referenced an event at the Hicksville Trailer Palace in Joshua Tree, when Depp acknowledged destroying a wall sconce after a woman who had taken MDMA cuddled up to Heard. She claimed that he tore her dress and underwear while still inside the trailer and insisted on doing a cavity search to seek for his narcotics. Heard claimed that Depp allegedly forced a flight attendant to take MDMA during a similar event on a journey to Russia, and then threatened to break her wrist when he thought she was hitting on Heard. Her testimony indicated that there was a further physical altercation. Heard testified that nobody told him about his actions at these times, and he allegedly punched her in the face while pinning her to the ground. She referenced an event at the Hicksville Trailer Palace in Joshua Tree, when Depp acknowledged destroying a wall sconce after a woman who had taken MDMA cuddled up to Heard. She claimed that he tore her dress and underwear while still inside the trailer and insisted on doing a cavity search to seek for his narcotics. Heard claimed that Depp allegedly forced a flight attendant to take MDMA during a similar event on a journey to Russia, and then threatened to break her wrist when he thought she was hitting on Heard. Her testimony indicated that there was a further physical altercation. Heard stated that nobody told him about his actions at these times. People would clean up the mess after he passed out and lost control. Until he did, he'd go about pretending he had no problems. He would become clean and sober, and then he would be this thing once more, this thing that made me feel so loved and like I had found my soulmate. The other half of him just becomes so scary. She remembered, through tears, I wanted to want to leave him, and I wanted him to get better. He would say, "You saved my life, baby girl, you saved my life." When he came to, Heard recalled. On the second day of her testimony, Heard described a relationship that was becoming more and more tumultuous. Heard claimed that Depp frequently started their numerous arguments by accusing her of having extramarital affairs with different cast members. She testified in court that Depp had been unhappy about a scene she had with James Franco before their flight from Boston to Los Angeles. She claimed that when she picked him up for the flight, she noticed a problem as soon as he boarded the aircraft. Depp appeared inebriated and under the influence to Heard. "You want to tell me how much you liked it, did he slip a tongue?" he allegedly said. According to her testimony, he kept asking me if I enjoyed it and if I was wet in front of other people, and I find it difficult to express how uncomfortable I was. Heard claimed that as she moved around the aircraft, He would follow her, throwing stuff at me, ice cubes, utensils, ranting about what an embarrassment I am. She claimed that no one intervened when he smacked her in the face, kicked a swivel chair into her hip, and finally kicked her in the back. She recalls being horrified that he could kick her to the ground in front of others. And even more embarrassing, I had no idea what to do. Heard claims that Depp proceeded to consume alcohol throughout the trip, eventually locking himself in the restroom and wailing like a wounded animal. She claimed that she then began to videotape since she knew that Johnny wouldn't recall what he had done. She claimed that because no one was addressing the issue, she would continue to take pictures and films of Depp while he engaged in heavy drinking and drug usage. Multiple images of Depp were displayed in court. Heard described Depp's detox on his island, saying that he was frequently irrational, hallucinating, and angry, and that she found herself in an awkward situation simply because he asked her to assist him. As their romance developed, she claimed that when he became angry, it was typically because of her perceived infidelity, and it always happened when he was drunk. After that, he would leave. He would simply leave, she added, meaning he never had to deal with my face the following day. Heard claimed that after that, he would return, apologize, and promise her that it wouldn't happen again. She claimed that she loved him and that she thought things may get better if professionals were brought in to help cure his addictions. But by December 2014, she had promised the court, "I would try to stand up for myself. I would retort by pushing him away from me. I would scream and yell at him, calling him foul names." She continued, "I felt that nothing I could do would change his sober habits. Nothing I did helped him stop beating me," adding that she was ashamed of that behavior. The couple nevertheless got hitched in February 2015. He traveled to Australia to shoot The Fifth Pirates, while she took off for London to film The Danish Girl. Heard's account of her arrival in Australia and the alleged bender that resulted in Depp's finger injury was the most terrifying part of her testimony. Heard insisted that she never requested MDMA from Depp, saying, "I learned my lesson the hard way on the plane to Russia. I would never take MDMA with him because I would be asking for trouble," but said that after supper on her first night, he brought out a bag, which led to a conflict. He began drinking in her presence, and a fight ensued. "I don't recall the specific order of events," she admitted. "I have a lot of flashes, and as things became busier, it got a little bit harder for me to remember everything in a straight line." According to her, when she pushed past him, he tossed her across the floor. Later, she claimed, he pushed her up against the refrigerator, grabbed her by the throat, and screamed in her face. She claimed that after escaping, she locked herself in their bedroom and took a sleeping aid. The next morning, she remembered finding him still awake as she went downstairs. He allegedly told her that he had consumed 8 to 10 dosages of MDMA, and then started accusing her of having affairs with the actors she had worked with. She claimed that he pursued her once more and pushed her into a wall. She remembered that she had to push him away from her at one time, and he responded by pushing me back and asking, "You want to go, little girl?" Depp allegedly threw her onto a ping-pong table and across the room. "He gets on top of me and is just repeatedly whacking me in the face." She claimed that after succeeding in standing up, she snatched an empty bottle from his grasp and slammed it to the ground between them. That greatly aggravated him. She reported that he began throwing bottles at her and knocking her to the ground. She testified before the court that he threatened to carve up her face while pressing a shattered bottle up against her face. She admitted, "I honestly don't recall if I hurled anything in his direction. I don't think I did. I just remember him holding me by the nightdress and throwing me around." She proceeded, eventually finding herself pushed into the bar area when Depp threw bottles and cans at her. "My nightgown eventually disintegrated totally. I slipped on this tile while I was completely naked. He was yelling at me that he fucking hated me and that I had ruined his life while there was glass underneath her," she recalled. When she was able to flee, she claimed that he began pounding the wall next to her head and then hitting it with a phone. She claimed that when he reconnected with her, it felt as though he had vanished from his body. She said, "I've never been more terrified in my life. It was black. I couldn't see him." He kept bashing her head against the bar while she said, "I was trying to express in some way that it was me, trying to get through to him." She said, "The next thing I remember, I was bent over backwards on the bar, and I could see his arm going back and forth and feel pressure on my pubic bone." She initially believed he was punching her before realizing he was piercing her with a bottle. He repeatedly vowed to kill me, saying, "I'll fucking kill you." Heard only recalls taking 2 sleeping pills at some point, not how the argument ended. She claimed that when she awoke the following morning, the messages Depp admitted to leaving her throughout the house were covered in mashed potatoes and a mixture of blood and paint in the hallways. She told the jurors that when she found him, his hand was covered in bandanas. He took them off and said, "Look what you forced me to do. I did this for you," she claimed. She packed up and fled after aid had arrived and Depp had been brought to the hospital, describing their bedroom as being littered with numerous empty Coke packages. Heard claimed that in order to help Depp through the procedures required to heal his finger, she was drawn back into the relationship. She discussed subsequent arguments, including the one she claimed started when she saw messages on Depp's iPad that appeared to suggest he had an extramarital affair just days after their wedding. Heard claimed that was the time she delivered her first blow. She claimed that as her sister attempted to break them apart, Depp appeared ready to push her sister down the stairs. For the first time I hit him square in the face. My sister wasn't pushed down the stairs by him. She talked of another altercation that took place on December 15, 2015, during which Depp is said to have pulled her up the stairs by her hair, headbutted her, and held her face down on their mattress. She remembered attempting to scream but being unable to do so. He was holding me down and repeatedly punching me while I was suffocating in this pillow top. Photos of the injuries, including her bruised face, busted lip, and patches on her scalp where Depp allegedly tore out her hair, were shown to the jury. Heard said she was injured in that altercation. Her statement to the jury was, "I thought, this is how I die. He's going to kill me now, and he won't even know it," the victim said. Heard continued her testimony for a third day after a week-long break, saying once more that she had worried Depp would inadvertently kill her during a dispute while they were on their honeymoon in 2015. She recalled that she woke up the following morning with his shirt tied around her neck, which he had torn off the previous evening. "He was squeezing my neck against the railway car for what felt like a very long time," she recalled. She claimed that during fights, Depp also injured himself by cutting himself or by lighting cigarettes on either himself or her. She claimed that Depp hit her in the face and punched her in the jaw after she saw a body double perform a sex scene in a movie she had made and mistakenly thought it was Heard. She said that during a subsequent altercation in April 2016, on Heard's 30th birthday, Depp grabbed her by the hair, tossed a bottle of champagne at her, and used her body to knock objects off a table. Heard stated, "Johnny was my home, and that home was frequently pretty violent." Heard responded to Depp's claim that she had urinated in their bed during the altercation in April 2016. Heard claims that Boo, one of their Yorkie dogs, suffered from bowel problems as a result of consuming Depp's marijuana when he was a puppy and had an accident on the bed. Heard denied Depp's chauffeur's testimony that he was instructed by Heard that the poop was a joke because I was not in a pranking mood. "On the day of my 30th birthday, my abusive husband, who I was deeply in love with and knew I needed to leave, attacked me. It wasn't exactly a happy period." After their altercation in April 2016, Heard claimed that she and Depp separated for a month before getting back together around the time of Depp's mother's passing. At this point, according to Heard, Depp allegedly became obsessed with dog poop and started talking about scientists and DNA and feces. Heard claimed that during one dispute over the poop episode, she tried to explain what had occurred by calling a friend. The friend warned her via speakerphone that she wasn't safe in the house as Depp started to become irate. Heard claimed that after punching her on the head and yanking her hair, Depp then threw the phone at her face and began taunting her until another friend intervened and dialed 911. She described how she refused to cooperate because she did not want them to arrest Johnny, which matches the account given by the police Depp's team when they were summoned to the flat. In images supposedly shot that evening, her legal team demonstrated a red mark on her face that police officers had earlier sworn they had missed when they had gone by the flat. After the phone incident, Heard claimed, "I realized I had to leave him. If I didn't, I knew I wouldn't live." In May 2016, she obtained a temporary domestic violence restraining order against Depp and filed for divorce. She stated that the violence had become the standard rather than the exception. Photos showing Heard wearing a bruise on the day she appeared in court to request the restraining order were shown to the jury. Depp has previously claimed that she used cosmetics to conceal the bruising. Cross-examination of Heard started late on Monday afternoon and continued into Tuesday morning. Heard's credibility was attacked by Depp's lawyer Camille Vasquez, who cited alleged inconsistencies in Heard's account. Vasquez showed Heard pictures on The Late Late Show. She got into a confrontation with James Corden that, according to Heard, left her with a damaged lip and black eyes. When Vasquez pointed out that there was no redness or swelling apparent in photos from the set, Heard responded, "You should see what it looked like under the makeup." Heard had previously claimed that her makeup artists had covered her mouth injuries with really thick, super heavy, matte red lipstick. Vasquez grilled Heard about the delayed settlement gift, citing an interview from 2018 in which Heard claimed to have donated the entire amount to charity. Heard declared on the witness stand, "I wish to fulfill my commitments," and implied that the litigation prevented her from doing so. Vasquez questioned Heard on Tuesday over the timeline of incidents that allegedly led to the attack with the liquor bottle, which Heard had previously described as unclear to her. Heard acknowledged that she did not seek medical assistance later, despite Depp's lawyer's apparent doubts. The jury was shown passages from the couple's love log as well as additional images of Heard. Images from a photo shoot Heard conducted in the Bahamas sometime after Depp allegedly assaulted her on December 15, 2015 were also among them. Vasquez claimed Heard edited pictures of her facial bruises from May 2016, but Heard denied doing so. Even though Heard claimed they were taken roughly 2 weeks later, there are no bruises to be shown in those pictures. Vasquez made a point of highlighting Heard's drug and alcohol abuse and charged her with attempting to have the former couple's nurse's license suspended prior to her scheduled testimony. The court heard recordings in which the couple repeatedly insults and belittles one another while making fun of one another's on-screen personas. Heard frequently urged Depp to suck my dick and referred to her as a spoiled fucking brat. Vasquez questioned Heard, "Didn't Mr. Depp get you that position in Aquaman?" Heard refuted that. When Heard previously testified that Depp had wrapped his shirt around her neck during the couple's honeymoon, Depp's attorney displayed a photo from that occasion. Displaying Depp's battered face, Heard claimed that although she had previously seen the picture, and that he wasn't hurt, the image being shown had been altered using Photoshop. Vasquez cited Heard's prior arrest for domestic violence. After her then-partner Tassia Van Ree claimed the incident was a misunderstanding, the charges were swiftly withdrawn. "You haven't solely abused Johnny Depp as a spouse, right?" Heard was questioned by Vasquez but said she had never hit a partner. A pre-recorded deposition from Io Tillett Wright, a former friend of the couple who was on the phone the night police were called to their apartment, was played to the jury after Heard's testimony. Wright gave an account of Depp's drug use and added more information about the altercation in May that had prompted Heard to file for divorce. Wright claimed he overheard Depp say to Heard, "You think I hit you?" when he was on the phone shortly before Depp reportedly tossed the object at Heard. "What if I pull back your effing hair?" He claimed that although he was friends with the pair, Depp never mentioned anything about Heard hitting him. On May 18, the court saw Heard's friend Rocky Pennington's deposition, in which he corroborated some of Heard's statements. Pennington claimed to have seen texts in which Depp referred to himself as the monster and claimed to have seen Depp confront the Hicksville woman he thought was hitting on Heard. She added that the next day, she had seen their trailer's ruins. Pennington described the May 21, 2016, fight and reviewed images of Heard's wounds. She claimed that after Depp stopped over for a chat, Heard eventually contacted her to the penthouse to ask for assistance. She claimed that when Pennington arrived, she stood between an alarmed Heard and an irate Depp, placing her hands on Depp's chest and yelling at him to stop. Pennington recalled, "I put my body over her, and he moved closer to us, yelling at her to get up or whatever." She claims that as he was being escorted out, Depp's security intervened and broke items with a wine bottle. She refuted the claim made by Depp's lawyers that she and Heard fabricated the incident to put Depp in the wrong. Josh Drew, Pennington's former fiancé, also made an appearance via pre-recorded deposition, claiming to have frequently observed Depp intoxicated and that, on the evening when Depp is said to have berated Heard and Pennington in the penthouse, she claimed that after Depp stopped over for a chat, Heard eventually contacted her to the penthouse to ask for assistance. She claimed that when Pennington arrived, she stood between an alarmed Heard and an irate Depp, placing her hands on Depp's chest and yelling at him to stop. Pennington recalled, "I put my body over her, and he moved closer to us, yelling at her to get up or whatever." She claims that as he was being escorted out, Depp's security intervened and broke items with a wine bottle. She refuted the claim made by Depp's lawyers that she and Heard fabricated the incident to put Depp in the wrong. Josh Drew, Pennington's former fiancé, also made an appearance via pre-recorded deposition, claiming to have frequently observed Depp intoxicated and that, on the evening when Depp is said to have berated Heard and Pennington in the penthouse, personally felt his fury. While Drew claimed he never witnessed Depp strike Heard, he did report seeing her with injuries and hearing their arguments from the penthouse next door. Elizabeth Mars, a different friend who formerly temporarily resided in the apartment, supported Drew's account of the May 2016 event by claiming that Depp charged toward her and frightened her out of the room. Heard looked pretty distraught and untidy and she had a swollen face, a red swollen face, according to Mars after he left. Whitney Henriquez, Heard's sister, testified about Depp's allegedly controlling behavior, claiming it escalated from remarks about her clothing to blocking her career. She was eventually prohibited from using passwords on her phone. Or, if she did have a password, Henriquez added, it was something incredibly basic that he had learned. For her, there was no expectation of privacy. She also acknowledged having shared alcohol and cocaine with Depp, claiming the combo would cause him to change into a totally different version of himself. Henriquez claimed that regardless of whether Heard was there, he would slur words, go on paranoid, delusional rants, and call her disgusting names like fucking cunt, used up trash bag, slimy whore, saggy whore. Henriquez corroborated Heard's story about the incident on the stairs, in which Heard claims she punched Depp to stop him from injuring Henriquez, and that Depp's staff afterwards wanted her to sign an NDA. Christy Sexton, Heard's former acting coach, claimed in a videotaped deposition that Heard and Depp's relationship deteriorated from first being lovey-dovey to becoming continuously combative. Sexton said that she overheard the pair arguing and saw him yell at Heard, She added that she seldom ever seen Depp sober and that he frequently disparaged Heard's potential jobs, calling them a whore part or a trash part, piece of shit or anything similar if it was something he didn't want her to take on. Sexton observed that Heard's interest in parts eventually decreased to the point where she wasn't auditioning or working on anything at all. She claimed that occasionally she noticed bruises on Heard's arms that appeared to be the result of a grasp. Sexton claimed that she was the only person who was stone cold sober during the ride to Hicksville, and that she heard Depp screaming from her trailer. I saw the completely destroyed trailer the next morning. Johnny was talking about what he had done, and he was telling the bodyguards to pay it off. Let's just take care of it, the witness recalled. Meanwhile, Heard was incredibly silent and closed off, and he kept saying sorry to her over and over again. I heard him on different occasions making excuses, saying, "I'm sorry I turned into a monster," Sexton continued. Melanie Iglesias, a former friend of Heard and a makeup artist, also gave testimony on May 18 in a pre-recorded video deposition. On December 16, 2015, Iglesias claimed to have assisted Heard in getting ready for the James Corden appearance. She had injuries on her face, Iglesias recalled, 1000%, without a doubt. She noted darkening under both eyes, across the bridge of Heard's nose, and the right eye had a little bit of a gash near the cheekbone. It appeared to Iglesias to be bruising with a small amount of swelling, especially around one eye and a split lip. Iglesias said she used a peach concealer and her bruise wheel to cover up the blue in her eyes and confirmed seeing a patch on Heard's scalp where a chunk of hair had been removed. Iglesias continued, "We painted a pretty dark red lip to mimic that red gash on Heard's lip." On May 19, jurors heard testimony from former co-workers of the couple, including Depp's ex-friend Bruce Witkin, ex-agent Tracy Jacobs, and ex-business manager Joel Mandel, who described Depp's explosive behavior. All of them spoke of Depp's behavior as becoming more and more alarming. Jacobs recalled being yelled at and claimed that Depp's star had dimmed as a result of his unprofessional behavior on set. Heard's legal team also made an effort to support the assertion in her countersuit that Depp and his associates had launched a smear campaign after she made her allegations public. In that case, Adam Waldman, Depp's former attorney, gave a pre-recorded deposition. Waldman was fired from the case for allegedly leaking sensitive information to the media and speaking with Rolling Stone, in which he labeled Heard's allegations as hoaxes. Waldman cited the attorney-client privilege, but he also acknowledged talking to various media sites and online journalists about Depp and Heard, as well as providing the LAPD a binder of information that he said proved Heard's charges were false. The jury also viewed a recorded deposition from the actor Ellen Barkin, who said that she had a 10-year friendship with Depp that turned sexual in 1994, the year she went to Hollywood. Barkin, who co-starred in the movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas with Depp, claimed that he once hurled a wine bottle at her while they were filming it. She referred to Depp as a dominating man who got demanding and angry when he felt envious. Depp's evidence regarding his severed finger did not seem consistent with an injury from a hurled vodka bottle, according to orthopedic physician Dr. Richard Moore and Dr. David R. Spiegel. Heard's team had anticipated calling Depp as a witness on May 23, but the court instead heard testimony from them. A psychiatrist who focuses on substance misuse and violence against intimate partners. Depp's use of booze and narcotics, according to Spiegel, lowered his processing speed cognitively and weakened his self-control. He continued by saying he thought Depp had bullied Heard out of narcissistic insult, claiming that Depp needed adoration from others, lacked empathy, was entitled, showed envy, and had easily damaged self-esteem. Additionally, Spiegel stated that Depp met major criteria for committing IPV, and defended himself against the claim that he was making an armchair psychiatric diagnosis made by Depp's attorney. "I have reviewed a lot of professional evaluations, treatment plans, video and picture depositions, court documents, and emails," the man claimed. "I've read a ton of materials describing Mr. Depp's behavior." The focus of the second half of the day was on testimony from producer and entertainment industry analyst Catherine Arnold, who said that Depp's career started to decline even before the opus ed was published. Depp, she said, makes between $20 and $25 million for each movie plus back end, making him an expensive performer. He developed the practice of arriving on set late as well, which had an impact on the schedule of the production. This made it harder for him to obtain work and more challenging for production companies to recruit him, along with his drinking and the drug misuse, and other issues in his personal life. Regarding the Disney drama, Arnold constantly highlighted that Pirates 6 is not yet a reality, but she said that she thought there were compromising issues long before Heard's piece was published. In addition, Arnold pointed out that negative articles about Depp from Rolling Stone and The Hollywood Reporter appeared before the opus ed. Before he filed the lawsuit, almost nobody even knew the opus ed existed, according to Arnold. She asserted that Depp's lawsuits were responsible for the majority of the negative press. She noted that someone who speaks of a charred corpse doesn't necessarily coincide with the brand of Disney. Arnold also discussed how Heard's job path has been impacted by these legal disputes. Aquaman was supposed to be her A Star is Born moment, but the constant negativity campaign on social media has lessened its influence. Heard was excused from significant press appearances for the film, and L'Oreal suspended her cosmetics contract. Her part in Aquaman 2 was significantly diminished. Depp, in contrast, shot a movie in 2019 and was featured in a Dior ad. Arnold stated that Depp received a warm reaction when he did press at the Venice Film Festival. Arnold calculated that Heard lost between $45 and $50 million in potential earnings as a result of the hoax allegations made by Adam Waldman, a lawyer for Depp, in 2020. If you want me to call it that, it could be the initiating event. During the cross-examination, Arnold rebutted, "We'll refer to the Waldman statements as the precipitating event of a deluge of social media strategies that have been employed for years." She acknowledged that Heard's career had paused at times, such as during the divorce, but claimed that the only time her career slowed down and stopped was at the same time those defamatory statements came out. On Tuesday, Depp's attorneys called a number of rebuttal witnesses to refute the testimony of Heard's expert witnesses. 3 of them, including Hollywood attorney Richard Marx, social media specialist Ron Schnell, and DC Films CEO Walter Hamada, spoke earlier during Johnny Depp's defense. Disputed Catherine Arnold's assertion that Heard's reputation suffered as a result of the smear campaign Depp, according to Arnold, ran to destroy her. Marx referred to her evaluation of Heard's career as wildly speculative, and Hamada refuted her claim that she would ever play a major role in Aquaman 2. Next, psychologist Richard Shaw charged Dr. Spiegel with breaking the Goldwater Rule, which prohibits members of the American Psychological Association from making psychological judgments about people they haven't personally examined. Dr. Spiegel testified on Monday about Depp's narcissistic personality and deteriorating cognitive abilities. Morgan Knight, the proprietor of the upscale trailer park in Hicksville where Heard claims Depp lost control and ripped off her clothes while performing a cavity search for his drugs, was called as a new witness by Depp's team on Tuesday. Disputed Catherine Arnold's assertion that Heard's reputation suffered as a result of the smear campaign Depp, according to Arnold, ran to destroy her. Marx referred to her evaluation of Heard's career as wildly speculative, and Hamada refuted her claim that she would ever play a major role in Aquaman 2. Next, psychologist Richard Shaw charged Dr. Spiegel with breaking the Goldwater Rule, which prohibits members of the American Psychological Association from making psychological judgments about people they haven't personally examined. Dr. Spiegel testified on Monday about Depp's narcissistic personality and deteriorating cognitive abilities. Morgan Knight, the proprietor of the upscale trailer park in Hicksville where Heard claims Depp lost control and pulled off her clothes while executing a cavity search for his drugs, was called as a new witness by Depp's side on Tuesday. Knight claimed that while cowering, he saw Heard yell at Depp. He recalls checking the trailer for damage and finding only a wall sconce missing. Knight said under cross-examination that he had previously referred to Heard in a tweet while the trial was proceeding as jealous and insane. Depp's crew contacted Kate Moss, the actor's girlfriend from 1994 to 1998, on May 25. Heard mentioned a rumor that Depp had once pushed Moss down the stairs while on vacation in Jamaica during her own testimony. Heard recalled punching Depp in the face in a spring 2015 altercation because she believed he was going to throw her sister down the stairs. "I simply swung at him because I had an instantaneous image of Kate Moss with stairs in my thoughts." When asked about the Jamaican incident by Depp's staff on Wednesday, Moss reportedly received fist pumps in response to the reference. Moss, who joined the conversation by video from Gloucester, England, denied that Depp had shoved her. She said that after slipping on the stairs during a downpour, Johnny returned to help and carried me to my room and gave me medical attention. "He never kicked me, shoved me, or threw me down any stairs," the woman claimed. Depp returned to the witness stand for his own rebuttal, rejecting Heard's allegations of abuse in general and the bottle incident in particular as insane and heinous. "No one is perfect, especially not a human being. None of us," he declared. "However, I have never in my life engaged in sexual battery, physical abuse, or any of the other absurd, terrible acts that have been attributed to me. I understand that none of us will find this easy, but regardless of what happens, I made it here, I told the truth, and I spoke out for the things I've been hesitantly dragging around for the past 6 years." Additionally, Depp claimed Heard slapped him on a train during their honeymoon and denied any involvement with Waldman's 2020 hoax claims in the Daily Mail. Depp's side has used a picture of Depp with a red nose as proof of that assertion, while Rottenborn, Heard's attorney, gave the court a picture of Depp before he and Heard boarded the train that exhibited the same facial marks. Depp's description of the Australia event from his UK and Fairfax testimonies was inconsistent, as highlighted by Rottenborn. When asked to clarify texts he wrote to his assistant Deuters, Depp then charged Rottenborn with tampering with the evidence. He wrote, "Molly's pussy is rightly mine. Shouldn't I just break in and take off its hinges tonight? I want her perception of what it feels like to be thrown around like a pleading mackerel to change. I want, I need, and I take." Depp claimed that the text didn't accurately represent how he wrote or spoke, and he speculated that either someone else used his phone to send them or Heard's staff had typed up the texts the previous evening. With reference to texts to his sister and Heard's ex-agent, the latter of whom warned that Heard was begging for ultimate worldwide disgrace, Rottenborn also requested Depp to affirm or deny that he attempted to have Heard fired from Aquaman, a part Depp claims he secured for her. Depp denied making an effort to get involved in retaliation, but Rottenborn noted that he had contacted several Warner Brothers executives. According to Depp, he felt a responsibility to tell Warner Brothers the truth about what they were going to have to deal with in the long run. Former TMZ staffer Morgan Tremaine claimed to have received information regarding Heard seeking a restraining order in 2016 and sending paparazzi. Additionally, he claimed that the website's tip line had provided him with a Dropbox link to the footage of Depp destroying kitchen cabinets. Although, as Bredehoft pointed out, Depp's attorneys also knew about Heard's plan to file for the restraining order, and one had a close relationship with the site. The suggestion appears to be that Heard or someone close to her sent in the material. Tremaine's testimony was challenged by TMZ and Heard's legal team, but the judge rejected both requests. Additionally, known as Norbert Brian Neumeister on Depp's side, a metadata expert who claimed that Apple's Photos program was used to process the pictures Heard had shown at trial, he was unable to specify who made the modification. But Heard's attorneys pointed out that saving the image on a computer as opposed to a phone may have caused the data to change. Comparing photographs side by side revealed that coloration on certain images may have been changed to highlight the contrast on Depp's bruises, which were still evident. The airport police officer who claims to have seen Heard and Van Rie's 2009 altercation, and who testified that Heard appeared intoxicated and aggressive toward Van Rie was Beverly Leonard, who, it bears repeating, has already stated that calling what happened an assault is inaccurate. The Observer, meanwhile, reportedly got in touch with Depp's team on the evening of May 24. This is how she ended up testifying. On the final day of testimony on Thursday, Depp's counsel invited a hand surgeon to believe that the actor's fingertip may have been severed by a vodka bottle thrown at him. This speculation supported Depp's assertion that Heard hurled the bottle at him, severing the tip of his finger. Neumeister's claims about photo editing were refuted by a forensic expert witness for Heard, who reiterated the argument made by Heard's attorneys that Apple devices create new versions of photos as part of the synchronization process. Don Hughes, a psychologist, came back to the witness stand to elaborate on Heard's PTSD diagnosis, which Depp's team's psychologist had contested on the grounds that people with PTSD don't partake in activities like dinner parties or hiking. Hughes remarked, "I often compare this to people carrying about a 50-pound bag of grain on their backs." Heard scored in the intermediate range on a diagnostic PTSD test, indicating that her account of her event was not at all excessive. Hughes called it a misunderstanding that those dealing with PTSD can't also enjoy themselves. After then, Heard spoke on the witness stand about the humiliation she had experienced as a result of Waldman's remarks, which are the focus of her countersuit. "I'm not laughing in this courtroom," she declared. "Any human being would find it embarrassing to go through this. Johnny assured me he would fulfill his promise and that I deserved it. This is not what I deserve." Then, Depp's lawyer questioned her about the altercation in Hicksville, New York, in 2013 as well as the day in 2016, when Heard went up to request a restraining order sporting a bruise on her face. Vasquez said that Heard had called the media in advance so that her court appearance would be widely reported. "What domestic abuse survivor wants that?" Heard answered. Vasquez then displayed paparazzi images of Heard that were taken in the days that followed and questioned her as to why there wasn't a noticeable mark on her face. Heard responded that it was because she was wearing makeup. Vasquez pressed Heard for the date of one of the pictures her team presented as proof, saying that her failure to do so was evidence that she was lying. "You didn't anticipate such a large turnout to support Mr. Depp's testimony, did you?" Vasquez questioned Heard, citing the testimony of Isaac Baruch, Depp's friend and house manager. "I knew how many people would show up in favor of him," Heard retorted. "That is his capacity. I created the Opus Ed for that reason. He is a man of great strength." Heard again denied fabricating either her injuries or any of the photographs displayed throughout the trial under cross-examination by her attorney. She said, "Johnny claimed he would ruin me. The only escape route was that. He threatened to publicly humiliate me. For the past 6 weeks, the entire world has witnessed the fulfillment of his threats." On May 27, closing arguments were made, and the jury immediately started deliberating. They followed up on May 31 to inquire as to whether they ought to take into account both the essay's title and body. Depp, meantime, was cited in the UK over the weekend. He reportedly garnered numerous standing ovations for his unexpected performances as Jeff Beck's guitarist at gigs at Sheffield City Hall and the Royal Albert Hall. The jury delivered its decision on June 1st. They claimed that Heard had disparaged Depp 3 times in her op-ed. The headline from the Washington Post on the essay, "I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath," was accepted by the jury. "That needs to alter," referred to Depp, was made maliciously and intentionally, and a lay reader would have understood it that way. The sentences I had the rare vantage point of seeing, in real time, how institutions protect men accused of abuse, and I had the rare vantage point of seeing, in real time, how our culture's wrath for women who speak out led them to the same conclusions. Then, 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse. Depp received a total of $15 million from the jury, including $10 million in compensatory damages and $5 million in punitive damages. Due to Virginia's legal cap, the punitive damages were lowered to $350,000. Regarding Heard's defamation claim, the jury found only one line in Adam Waldman, Depp's lawyer's 2020 op-ed in the Daily Mail, to be defamatory. Simply enough, Waldman writes, "This was an ambush, a fraud. They called the police to set Mr. Depp up, but the initial call was unsuccessful. When they saw no harm to her face or possessions, the officers departed after conducting a thorough search and interview in the penthouses. In order to get their tales straight under the guidance of a lawyer and a publicist, Amber and her companions spilt some wine and vandalized the location. After that, they made a second call to 911. The jury concluded that Waldman was agent for Mr. Depp, made a false claim that was sufficiently malicious to qualify as defamation. Heard received a $2 million compensatory damage award from the jury, but no punitive damages. Heard and observed the verdict being read in court. Depp had what his staff referred to as already established job commitments and did not show up, contrary to his allegation that he was unable to find employment after Heard's op-ed was published. From the UK, where he had spent the previous 3 nights performing concerts with Jeff Beck, he followed the outcome. Elaine Bredhoft, Heard's former attorney, stated on the Today Show that Heard would not be able to pay the $8.35 million in damages she owed Depp and that they intended to appeal the decision. Heard's attorneys sent a memorandum to the court a month after the verdict, requesting that the judge set aside the decision, throw out the lawsuit, or order a new trial. Courthouse News reported that these new records, argument that the jury's decision was unsupported by the evidence, including the nearly $10 million in damages that Depp was awarded, was filed with the court on July 1st. The new papers specifically emphasized that Depp's part in the Pirates series was unaffected by the op-ed. The claim also suggests that one of the jurors had a problem, implying that the person who was summoned was not the one who showed up in the end. A week later, Heard's legal team submitted a new motion, requesting that the judge declare a mistrial and retry the case. More information about the alleged juror swap can be found in court documents that Deadline obtained with redactions. According to Heard's counsel, a juror with a 1945 birth year was on the jury panel roster, but a younger person ended up sitting for the trial. According to voter registration records, the summoned juror lives with the individual who appeared for jury selection, and they have the same last name. Virginia, on the other hand, mandates that courts conduct identity checks on potential jurors prior to their appointment. The form reportedly requests that they submit their birth date. Judge Ascarot rejected Heard's request for a new trial, notably disputing the assertion made by Heard's defense team that a juror was unjustly chosen. The judge's response stated that the summons for the potential juror was missing a birth date, i.e., either he or the other may have shown up. The juror provided accurate information on a jury questionnaire, according to the judge. The motion also mentioned the possibility of Heard's side objecting to the juror during voir dire. Judge Ascarot concluded by saying, "The sole evidence before this court is that this jury and all jurors complied with their oaths and the directions and directives of this court. The jury's competent decision is binding on this court." Documents from the Depp v. Heard trial totaling 6,000 pages were made public in August following a massive fundraising campaign that was ostensibly organized by Andrea Burkhart, a legal commentator on YouTube, an outspoken supporter of Depp. These records include a motion Depp's lawyers filed objecting to a request that he undergo an independent medical checkup, according to reporting by the Daily Beast. In the motion, it was stated that Mr. Depp does not allege a specific cause of action for intentional or negligent infliction of emotional distress, does not assert that Mrs. Heard's actions caused him a specific psychiatric injury, and does not claim that Mrs. Heard's actions caused him to experience unusually severe emotional distress. Depp is not asserting harm based on a specific bodily or mental injury. The motion continued. The authenticity of the now famous recordings Depp's team presented was disputed in other documents submitted by Heard's team, who claimed that they may have been edited. Heard's team reportedly asked for the whole audio recordings to be made available, but the request was turned down along with warnings from Disney to Depp sent through his agency. According to reports, Depp's team also asked the judge to instruct the jury to dismiss some of the admissible evidence, such as Ellen Barkin's testimony, and the messages between Depp and Bettany. According to the filings, he made an effort to have Heard's naked images admitted as proof, a legal strategy that might potentially be considered revenge porn. These requests also seem to have been rejected. Heard's legal team submitted a notice of appeal on July 21. Initially, Deadline claimed that this procedure would require Heard to post an $8.3 million bond. Her legal team was reconstituted 5 months later. When she hired David L. Axelrod and J. Ward Brown in place of Bredehoft, she kept Rottenborn but did not retain Bredehoft. She then filed the actual appeal, claiming that allowing the matter to proceed to trial was the first of many mistakes.